What would you say if a cop smiled, sounded nice, and asked one little question that could help build a case against you? You might think the safe move is to be friendly back. But one casual answer can give police the extra time, suspicion, and consent they need to turn a warning into handcuffs. Hit subscribe right now because what I am about to show you could save you from talking yourself into a case. And tap like so you can find this again fast when your heart is racing on the side of the road. Here is the reality. The friendly question trap works because it does not feel like a trap. It sounds normal. It sounds polite. It sounds like small talk. Where are you headed? Where are you coming from? You got anything illegal in the car? Mind if I take a quick look? You answer because you want the stop over fast. You answer because you think silence makes you look guilty. You answer because you think being nice always helps. But in a traffic stop, your words are not just words. They are clues. They are time. They are evidence. In this video, you are going to learn the 4 exact lines that stop that trap cold, why those lines work, the Supreme Court cases behind them, and how to use them without sounding rude or scared. If you learn this now, you won't have to guess later when every second feels like a lifetime. Let us talk about why this matters so much. Most people have no idea that traffic stops are supposed to stay limited. The officer handles the reason for the stop, checks your documents, maybe writes a ticket, then you should be on your way. But the friendly question is often the bridge to something bigger. If you say you are nervous, your story changes, or your answer sounds odd, that can become the excuse to keep digging. Then comes the next question, then another, then a request to search, then a claim that you seem suspicious. And now a simple stop feels like an investigation. You don't lose control in one big moment. You lose it one small answer at a time. That is why your goal is not to win an argument. Your goal is to stay calm, give what the law requires, and stop volunteering the rest. The first thing you need to do is shut down the chat without starting a fight. Let me show you exactly how. If the officer starts fishing with, "Where are you headed tonight?" or "What were you doing over there?" you do not need to fill the silence with a life story. You keep it short and tied to the stop. Here is exactly what you say. "Officer, I would like to handle the reason for the stop." Word for word. Memorize that line. If the questions keep coming and they are clearly about your plans, your friends, or your day, you can add this. "I'm not discussing my day." That line is simple, calm, and clean. Here's the trick they do not want you knowing. Friendly questions are often not about being friendly. They are about getting you talking long enough to spot nerves, catch a mismatch, or create a reason to stay longer. If you say you're coming from a friend's house and your passenger says you were at dinner, that tiny mismatch can suddenly become inconsistent statements. If you say you're not sure where you're going because you are tired, now you sound evasive. If you talk too much, you hand over details the officer never had before. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Oh, I'm just coming from my cousin's place. We had a few people over, then I stopped for gas, and now I'm heading across town." Then the officer has more facts, more time, and more angles to question you. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I would like to handle the reason for the stop." Then the stop stays focused, your words stay controlled, and you give away less. Why does this work? Because police cannot stretch a stop forever just to go on a fishing trip. In Rodriguez versus United States, the Supreme Court said a traffic stop cannot be extended beyond the mission of the stop without a real legal reason. In plain English, that means the stop is supposed to be about the traffic issue, not a free pass to poke around your whole life. Your short answer helps keep the stop where it belongs. It does not guarantee the officer stops asking, but it keeps you from feeding the next step. I have analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and you see the same pattern again and again. The driver who keeps chatting gives the officer more to work with. The driver who stays calm and narrow gives much less. Former police officers have confirmed this works. It removes the easy opening. When you stop providing extra details, the officer has to work with what they already had, not what you just handed them. And no, this does not mean you act hostile. You still give your license, registration, and insurance if your state requires it. You still keep your hands visible. You still stay respectful. You are not trying to be difficult. You are protecting yourself from turning small talk into suspicion. Watch what happens when you do this right. The officer asks a soft question. You give a calm boundary. The stop either stays about the ticket, or the officer has to make a clear choice about what comes next. Either way, you stop helping build the case. Have you ever had an officer ask where you were coming from? Drop a comment below because that simple question is where a lot of drivers lose control. The second tactic is the line that protects your car, your bags, and everything inside. If the officer says, "You don't mind if I take a quick look, right?" This is where many people panic. They think saying yes will make the officer nicer. That is a huge mistake. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. Memorize that line. Say it calmly. Say it clearly. Then stop talking. You do not need to explain why. You do not need to say, "I have nothing to hide." You do not need to joke. You do not need to argue. Your job is to make your answer unmistakable. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court. It creates a clean record. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection. Even if the officer searches anyway, your refusal can matter later. If you say yes, you did the hard part for them. You opened the door yourself. Bad way. Most drivers say, sure, go ahead, I don't have anything to hide. Then they lose the chance to challenge the search, and anything found gets much harder to fight. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, I do not consent to any searches. Then the officer needs another legal reason, and your rights stay on the record. This is 100% legal. You're not required to consent just because the request sounds casual. In Schneckloth versus Bustamante, the Supreme Court made clear that consent searches are valid when people agree voluntarily. In plain English, if you say yes, the search usually stands. That is why your refusal matters so much. You're not stopping every possible search, but you are refusing to hand over permission. A lot of people get tricked here by tone. The officer may smile, the officer may say, if you have got nothing to worry about, why not? That line is designed to make you feel guilty for refusing. But your rights do not disappear because someone asked nicely. Your refusal is not evidence of a crime. Your refusal is you keeping a boundary. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. If the officer has probable cause, they may search anyway. If they don't, your no matters even more. Watch what happens when drivers use the wrong answer. The officer asks for a quick look. The driver says yes to seem harmless. A bag gets opened, a locked container gets questioned, a pill bottle becomes a big problem. The whole stop changes because of one soft yes. Now watch the better path. The officer asks. You say, officer, I do not consent to any searches. Calm voice. No speech, no extra details, no argument. That one line protects you in the moment and later in court. And here is something else you need to remember. Even if the officer says, I'm going to search anyway, you do not physically resist, you do not reach, you do not block.